This episode of Indigenous Lifeways is sponsored in part by University of Rhode Island, Office of the President.
Welcome everyone that's here. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Loren Spears and I'm the Executive Director here at Tomaquag Museum. And I first want to thank all the tribal elders that came out and then all the other guests that came out, elders or non-elders that are here. But I would be remiss, my grandmother is here. Give a wave, Graham. She is 97, I love to brag, and used to own and operate and found the Dove Crest Indian restaurant that used to be here on this site. And really, truly, along with Princess Red Wing and quite a few other people, this museum wouldn't exist without my grandmother. Because I think in those really days where we were really bumpy in the late 80s, early 90s, if it wasn't for her sending in our tax documentation and paperwork, we probably wouldn't even be a nonprofit right now. It would have been starting all over again. So she kept us going when times were bumpy along the way. And I know I always feel good because she smiles at me a lot when she sees the things that are going on here at Tomaquag Museum and how she had wanted things to be going. So it makes me very happy to have her here. This is Robert Geake, who is an author and a researcher, and I'm going to let him give his own bio, but we are so happy to have him here with us. And he wrote a few books, but I'm only going to brag about one, and that is a history of the Narragansett Tribe of Rhode Island, Keepers of the Bay, and he worked with several tribal elders along the way, and has done a wonderful job giving a history of our people in a more full way than had been done previously as far as I'm concerned. So we're very happy with that. And I'm happy to be partnering with him to think about the veterans, not just veterans of today, but veterans all the way back to the inception of this country and who fought in the Revolutionary War. So tonight we're going to be talking about one of those regiments, the 1st Rhode Island Regiment, and how Indigenous people and other people of color impacted that regiment. And so, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Bob Geake to give a little intro about yourself.
Thank you very much. It's a real privilege to be here. I want to thank everyone for coming out. It's a special night for me because, as Loren said, I have been working on a history of the tribe, and also have written quite a number of essays about Native American history in New England, which are mostly on my blog, RhodeIslandFootprints.com. You can find them there if you choose. And it's an important history to me. It's a history that hasn't been fully explored, and especially as Loren and I begin to explore the history of those tribal members that enlisted in the Revolutionary War. It's a fascinating story, and it's a compelling one, because this was a regiment, the 1st Rhode Island Regiment, was made up of poor white laborers, free blacks, Indigenous peoples, and eventually manumitted slaves, and we'll get to how that happened in a little while. And all of these men came together as a band of brothers, and it was a very fluid time. Regiments were moving in and out of the Army all the time in different areas, but they served with distinction in the Battle of Rhode Island, at Monmouth, New Jersey, at Red Bank, and at Pines Bridge, where their leaders were killed, unfortunately, and also in Yorktown, in the final victory of the Revolutionary War. So it's a compelling story, and the stories of their lives is what we have come to find even more compelling. And these men who enlisted, given the opportunity to serve 3 years and earn their freedom, enlisted and did earn their freedom, but they did not earn the liberties that were spoken of in the Declaration of Independence, in which all of the citizens of the United States expected to be given to them. They were excluded from those liberties, and we'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end and the outcome of But I thought we'd begin tonight, and Lauren, I've given you one page, you'll do that. I'd like to read off the names of those Indigenous Rhode Islanders. We believe they're all Rhode Islanders. They're listed in the DAR list of forgotten patriots as Rhode Islanders. But again, as in most histories, we find it a little more fluid than is just printed on the page. We find Narragansett men serving in the 1st Rhode Island Regiment and then moving into Massachusetts regiments, and Connecticut Indigenous peoples doing the same thing, moving in and out of regiments throughout Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. So there's more to the story than even that we're finding here.
Support this and other great podcast content at our Patreon page, www.patreon.com/artways. Tomaquag Arts programs are sponsored by the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. Investment in arts and culture. Music presented by Eagle and Hawk. www.eagleandhawk.com.